Tony Blanco Jr. didn't just win the AFL Home Run Derby, he redefined it. Esmerlin Valdez backed him up, and together they gave Pirates fans a glimpse of what power looks like in black and gold. Let's talk about it next on Locked On Pirates.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, I'm Gary Morgan. Welcome to Locked On Pirates, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I've been covering the Pirates since 2019, and today we're diving into Tony Blanco Jr.'s record-shattering performance in Arizona Fall League Home Run Derby, Esmerlin Valdez's rise, and what the Joe La Sorsa signing really says about the Pirates' offseason strategy. Let's get into it, but first, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So, yeah, Blanco and Valdez were the story. They were certainly the ones providing the fall fireworks. It was crazy. Tony Blanco Jr. and Esmerlin Valdez didn't just show up to the Arizona Fall League. They took it over. As of early November, they're the two Pirates prospects making the biggest impact in the AFL. It's not just about the home run derby, but let's start with Valdez. He has been a dominant force, leading the league in multiple offensive categories, 8 home runs, 26 RBI, and a .922 slugging percentage. At one point, his OPS topped 2.200, which is just incredible over an 8-game stretch. He's posted a max exit velocity of 114.4, one of the highest in the AFL. And across high A and double A in the regular season, he hit 26 home runs. Valdez isn't just showing power. He's showing elite power, and he's doing it consistently, and he's pretty darn close. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's going to be starting in AAA next year. I can't see any reason why he wouldn't. They'll absolutely add him to the 40-man to protect him from the Rule 5. I think you should be pretty optimistic that you're going to get eyes on Esmerlin Valdez in the majors next year. I'm not claiming that he's a perfect player. I'm not claiming he'll come up here and hit 30 in the majors, but this is not an aberration at this point. What he's done all season long, it's opened eyes, not just here either. Then there's Tony Blanco Jr. He stole the spotlight in the AFL Home Run Derby. And I mean, he's been hitting home runs, but he hit 122.9 mile per hour homer, harder than anything recorded in MLB Derby history during the StatCast era. Launched 119.7 mile per hour blast onto a nearby roof, sending the ballpark into a frenzy. Finished with 24 homers and 32 points, including a walk-off opposite field shot to win the event. Delivered an emotional tribute to his late father, Tony Sr., who played in the Fall League himself back in 2005. Blanco's power, it's raw, it's loud, it's real. He's also hit a 464-foot bomb during regular AFL play. He continues to be one of the most talked about players in the league. Together, Blanco and Valdez have formed a formidable duo in the Salt River Rafters, combining for 40 home runs in the Derby and routinely sending frozen ropes into the desert night. While they're the headliners, it's worth noting that Jaden Woods, a lefty reliever, has shown some flashes. He's working on command and posting scoreless outings. Carlson Reed has also had a clean inning recently. Other Pirates prospects like Derek Diamond, Joshua Luscorn, Dominic Parashi, and Will Taylor are gaining valuable reps and injury shortened seasons. Bottom line here is Blanco and Valdez aren't just putting up numbers. They're kind of making statements. And if you're a Pirates fan looking for hope, well, this fall league performance is a great place to start. We haven't had too many opportunities to just talk, I don't know, optimistically. And this is two reasons to be very optimistic. First one, we already talked about a little bit with Valdez. I really believe you have a very good chance of seeing him in the majors next year. I really do. I'm not going to try to predict whether it's a cup of coffee at the end of the year or, somebody that you're whining to me about sometime around the All-Star break or whatever. But I expect him to start in AAA. And that'll be a real test for him with the power numbers. Indianapolis is a very, very fair ballpark. And I love what he's doing in the Arizona Fall League. There's no denying how cool it is. There's no denying how special it's looked. At least what you get to see. Most of what you get to see from the AFL is like one fixed camera angle. And, if anything, you get highlights from people in the stands just holding up a phone. I did get to go to 2 games earlier this year in the AFL. First time I've ever done it. And it's a cool atmosphere. You can definitely tell, like, there are players of varying levels for sure. There really are. There are some guys that are just trying to get in innings, and you almost don't want to take too much from their performances against some of these better players, as much as just hoping that they continue to stay healthy and get the work in. But for some guys like Blanco and Esmerlyn, it's been a little bit more of a let me just punish anything you try to throw against me. I mean, it's really been that, especially for Valdez. Blanco, there's more concern there. And I don't want to like take a positive segment and put it into a downward spin. But I do feel it's important that you just understand. We had an AMA question about this not all that long ago. But as he just has been so impressive here, I think more questions are going to come up about how quickly he should be risen through the ranks. I would just say the biggest thing to pay attention with Blanco is the power is crazy. You will notice it immediately. The ball sounds different. He barely looks like he's fully swinging to put the thunder that he does into some of these balls. He's that kind of big. We're talking Aaron Judge big, except he's not just that big in one way. He's got a little bit of heft to him, right? And this isn't a fleet-footed guy. Probably means you're talking about a guy who's a future first baseman or could be like a DH. I'm trying to think of like who I could comp him to. Big Country, if you remember back in the day. It's kind of what he reminds me of. Mason Martin is probably a more recent guy that had this same sort of thing. Big power, didn't have the best contact skills. That's what's got to improve with Blanco. Now, on the plus side, his age is certainly there. He's young enough that he can absolutely develop that. And he doesn't have to develop it into like some supernatural player ability where he's one of these guys that starts slapping singles all over the place. That's just not going to be his game. But he is a guy that I think you could potentially get the K rate down controllably around 25% in the minors. And then you've got a good shot at a real legitimate power hitter. You're going to have a spot for him that's very limited, though. This isn't a guy that you're going to be able to play a lot of games with as far as moving him around. Esmerlyn, maybe a little more. He can do some things in the field. I don't know that I think he's going to win a Gold Glove anywhere. I'm not telling you that he has a birthright to play any position, but I think you got a good shot of him making it with a little more versatility, at least to do something, or at least reasonably believe you could. Blanco, let's just say all of his chips are in the bucket of this is going to be a transformative power hitter. Because if he isn't, it's going to be real hard to roster him. So, interesting to watch them both develop. Blanco's come a little further this year than I expected him to, and Valdez certainly has. I liked him last year, but man, what a jump, for real. From Blanco's moonshots and Valdez's breakout, the future looks bright. But what about the present? Let's talk Murakami, budgets, and whether the Pirates can even get in the room. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride that hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to the fourth quarter big comeback. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game interesting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com and sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Hey, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Thank you for making Locked On Pirates your first listen of the day. And thank you for helping Locked On become the #1 sports podcast network. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. There's today's big question I got from a listener that listened to just about that entire series last week about the Pirates' Operation 83 wins and came in a little late for the AMA with a really good question. Do the Pirates actually have a shot at signing Munetaka Murakami? And I hope that I did that any kind of justice. Sully over at Locked On MLB thinks they should at least throw their hat in the ring. I'm not convinced. If I offer someone $20 to shovel my driveway, does that count as being in the mix for a $300 million contract? That's hyperbole, sure, but let's talk about budget realities, international free agency, and whether playing next to stars like Paul Skeens or even Shohei Ohtani could influence a decision like that. Well, first, it's a great question for real. I think the Pirates should put some interest into this. I know they sent scouts, but I also don't think that that's necessarily like a reportable, exciting thing. Like, hey, they had scouts there. Every team had scouts in Japan for a lot of reasons. I mean, the Pirates could have had scouts there watching Cody Ponce to see how much better he was. That's a guy that's going to come back and surprise people by getting a big major league contract too. He's done well over in Japan. So, yeah, I mean, should they be in on it? Yeah, maybe. I don't necessarily think that it's a lock that he sticks at third base. I think he could move to first. Those are things I've read. The posting fee is almost $17 million. Now, that's not what he makes. That's what it costs just to bid. The most that I ever remember them doing was for Jung Ho Gong back in the day. And I'd have to go and look it up. But I can't remember that being more than a posting fee of, I think, $4 million, which was pretty big at the time. It was definitely a step outside of the comfort zone for a chance at a power hitter. Yeah, I don't know. And as far as can he be swayed to play with great players? Well, they're all going to say that once they actually land wherever they land. You know, for the most part, you're going to find a player or two that you can identify to say, like, man, I really wanted to play with that guy. This one's probably going to be a lot more about money than anything else. The traditional markets to look for in this case, when they say 9 figures, I don't think they're getting to 300 million with a guy like this, if only because his K rate is up around 25 to 30% in Japan. And much like I was just talking about with Blanco, okay, totally different players. Please don't think I'm making some kind of a comp. But I am going to say that the Japanese league is a lot closer to AAA than it is the majors. Okay? So if I think you have to have a better K percentage in the minors to be successful in the majors, I'm certainly not going to dismiss that he's got a rather high K rate in Japan, because what I expect is that it grows when it gets here, at least momentarily. At least for the first year or so. Even Suzuki in Chicago struggled a little bit when he came here, and he was pretty accomplished. This guy, pretty accomplished as well. He's coming off an oblique injury. He didn't play a lot of baseball last year, so I'm sure that'll factor into some people's minds. I would imagine more so than that lump sum of like the 300 million. I think you're probably looking at something more in the 5-year, 120 million type range. Again, that should be in the realm of possibilities for a team like the Pirates. It should be. I'm tired of making excuses and pretending that they couldn't do any one individual thing. I'll tell you, there's other ways they could spend their money and split it up. But like, if they wanted to just go out and try to get one big thing, that would be it. That said, I really do believe with a lot of the Japanese players that come over, there is an adjustment period to the American game. There just is. I don't think that it has to be some kind of role that you always expect. I don't think that it's something that you have to claim you've seen with other players. Most of them come over here and struggle to adapt for a moment. The fastballs are just different. The motion on the pitches is just a little bit different. They are throwing different types of pitches. Fork balls are super, super heavily used and traditional over there, along with a lot of sinkers and breaking pitches down in the zone. We're getting that in the game now a little bit more, as you've seen the high fastball start to get tagged here and there. You're starting to see the pitchers here adjust back to it. But in Japan, that's kind of the bread and butter. And when you get over here and everyone's piping high fastballs at you, that's not how you succeeded, So go look at his highlight videos if you like and see that sweet spot that he's hitting a lot of those home runs in, and then picture how few pitches he's going to see there, right? Your first year, I think you do adjust. And then if you stay long enough, I think you can become what Suzuki has become, which is just a reliable, evolved, mature power hitter. And he's younger. He's got more runway to do it than a lot of Japanese players that come over here, coming over here at 25 years old. So yeah, long-winded way of saying I'd love the Pirates to be in on it. I think it's technically affordable. It's a better option than going after any of the free agents on the board right now that were even in their reach. I think it's probably more affordable than Kyle Schwarber, but less reliable, less of a sure thing. Less of a sure thing, I would say. That it's nowhere near anybody else. I mean, Pete Alonso, I guess, is probably the best comp, really, because especially since I think he could wind up playing first base too. That's probably the best comp on the board. And I don't think he makes what Pete Alonso is going to get. So they should have their hat in the ring or whatever that is. For them to put their hat in the ring, though, and this is the thing with these international signings, that almost $17 million that I talked about, I mean, that gets put up before you bid. You get what I mean? So like, you can put that money up to lose. It's expensive in this case to walk around pretending you were this close to signing David Price. If you remember back in the day, right? So I mean, it's not a game that I think you see a lot of teams play. Do they want to play with the best players though? Yeah, and Shohei Ohtani especially. Oh, sure. Now a guy like this, maybe he's a guy that's like, screw Shohei. I'm going to be the big Japanese star. Wait till they see me. And maybe he doesn't want to be in his shadow or be anywhere near him. It certainly didn't work that way for Yamamoto or Suzuki. They wanted to be with him. I don't know. Now, do I think like they are inclined to want to play with Paul Skeens? Probably not yet. I mean, this guy's one of the bigger stars in his game, in his country. I doubt he's looking at other stars drooling. I mean, he probably knows who Shohei is and loves him and looks up to him, but I doubt he's looking at like American stars from Pittsburgh. I'm sure he knows who he is, but probably can't wait to face him. But I doubt he's thinking about teaming up with him or anything like that. I think you're probably looking at national pride concerns. The typical cities are going to be talked about are the ones that have succeeded in getting Japanese players to land there before. Chicago, Boston, New York, LA, Seattle, San Diego. Those are the conversations that you're going to have, that he's going to want to be on the West Coast or one of the big metropolises, either in the mid or East Coast. That's the way it usually works. I'd love them to be in on it too. I'm happy that you listen to Sully. He's awesome. Yeah. Big names might be out of reach, but smart depth moves still matter. Let's look at Joe La Sorsa and why he might be a little bit more than just a typical Pirates signing. NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium, surrounded by fans, cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a real hassle. Between K's, long login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Game Time for last night's Steeler game just a couple hours before it started. Saw tickets on there for about $1.50. Good luck getting those in advance, right? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Hey, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Before we jump into our final segment, don't forget to follow me on socials. Gary MO2007 on X, Gary M. Morgan on Facebook, Pirates Fan Forum on Instagram, or just search Locked On Pirates anywhere you hang out online. Now let's talk about Joe La Sorsa. Pirates signed him to a minor league deal with a spring training invite, and sure, it's easy to call this a typical Pirates signing. But honestly, this is a typical reliever signing for any team in baseball. What makes La Sorsa interesting is how quickly he's moved through the system compared to some of the Pirates' own arms. Guys like Brandon Bidois and Ryan Harbin, who are just now getting protected or considered for the 40-man, well, they're right from the same zip code as La Sorsa was. 2019 draft pick. Just peaked into the majors. Lefty. He's got some good zip on his pitches. This isn't something to be upset about, or same old Pirates. Dumpster diving for those Pirates. When you're filling a bullpen, that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. And if you succeed, people forget where you got them. Do you think anybody celebrating their second consecutive World Series in Los Angeles was thinking about the fact that Anthony Bondo was a waiver wire claim? You think anybody cared? They don't. Do you care that Dennis Santana was? I mean, these are the types of guys that you get. And this time of year, you're trying to bring in depth. I told you one of my biggest concerns was left-handed pitching. They have they have Barco, and I'm excited about that. That's a starter, and that's if he wins a spot out of camp in the first place. And I don't see them using him in the bullpen. I think they need him to remain a starting prospect one way or another. He's one of the very few I don't think they can play that game with, really. You got one reliever that you traded for, Evan Sisk. You need some depth. You need some backup options, right? This is a nothing thing. This is a guy signed to a deal. You're either in the minors or you're in the majors. You can come to camp, and if we think you're good, okay, maybe we'll give you a spot. Why is it any different than like wanting them to protect somebody like Brandon Bidouin, who just had his first healthy season this year and flew through the system? This is what happens with relievers. They get to a decision point or an aging out point, and then teams have to fly them. And sometimes it results in what happens to a guy like Joe La Sorsa. People liked him all the way through. They were very interested in him. And then they bring him up and they use him like a ping pong ball for a couple seasons, kill all of his options, and then dispose of him and let someone else deal with them. Well, this is how bullpens get made. There's a ton of guys like this. I guess what I'm saying is like, I understand the environment that we're living in right now with baseball and the economics of it and the Pirates and boy, they make some dumb decisions and everything. But man, if your default mode is everything is stupid or nothing matters, or why why have a discussion? Why comment at all then? This is a kid that hasn't done anything to anyone, nobody here in Pittsburgh, outside of people that have watched like every single game and saw him throw for the Reds against us once, know who this dude is. And if he pitched against us, you probably think he's Cy Young, right? So my point is, you don't know who he is. You don't know if this is a good deal or a bad deal. This is no different than trading Kevin Newman for Dowry Moretta, and everybody was like, who the hell's Dowry Moretta? You know what I mean? You don't know who they are because why would you? They're relievers. But you don't have to like hate them instantly. And I just don't think we have to like immediately go to that's a stupid move or that's a typical move. Listen, some of them are going to look like stupid moves. Some of them are. Some of them are just flat out wrong. Some of them you're just going to be like, why did you take a swing at this guy at all? I think it all the time. But I think it after I've seen them pitch. I think it after I've seen their new pitching coach get a shot to like get hands on him and see what he can do. These types of moves are not the ones to scrutinize. The ones to scrutinize are like the big trades where real talent goes out the door. Then you expect real talent to come back. Those are the ones to scrutinize. Sign a free agent and you know damn well it's going to be a starter or a starting role, and it's something like Tommy Pham, yeah, you get mad. Now, if they brought in La Sorsa and they signed him immediately to a major league contract, meaning we don't even need to see a second of what he's done. I want him in the majors, period. He's on my roster. Well, yeah, get mad then. This is a guy that's got only a couple innings of experience. What are you doing? But if they sign a guy like that to a 2-way contract, guys, this is what you want them to do. This is exactly what you should be doing. And it doesn't preclude you from signing other guys that cost a lot more. You really should. I'm not saying they will. Get mad about that then. This is normal stuff. There are people online already hating this guy. You don't know him. You have no idea what he's going to do. You have no idea what Coach Murphy thinks he sees in him. Or whatever metric they see that they think they can get something out of. They've actually done pretty well in this category. I don't understand why we would be upset about them exercising this category. This is something they've done great at. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, it might look like a typical Pirates move on the surface, but dig a little deeper and you'll see it's the kind of signing every team makes. And sometimes the kind that sticks. Blanco and Valdez gave us a glimpse of what the future could look like. Murakami might be a long shot, but the conversation matters and it's worth having. They really should and could be involved in something like that. And La Sorsa, just another piece in the puzzle. Remember, we're serious about Pirates baseball because somebody has to be. Let's go Bucks.